Welcome to ClueCon Weekly. Join us every Wednesday to learn about the latest cutting-edge developments in the real-time communications industry. ClueCon Weekly is brought to you by FreeSWITCH Solutions. Get support and professional services directly from the creators of the FreeSWITCH open source project, solving your issues in the most efficient, stable, and scalable way possible. Get the FreeSWITCH advantage. Visit freeswitch.com. Also brought to you by ClueCon, the premier technology conference for developers by developers. Join us every summer in Chicago. ClueCon kicks off on Monday with our annual hackathon, The Coder Games, followed by 3 days of technology-rich presentations discussing telecom, WebRTC, and IoT from developers around the world. To learn more, visit ClueCon.com or call 877-74-CLUE.
Welcome back to another edition of ClueCon Weekly. Today is September 19th, and I am Joshua Young, and I will be filling in for Ken this week. And today our guest will be our very own Fred Muteesa. You may recognize him from the numerous videos that he's continually putting out there on YouTube to aid the community in various small tasks that can be done with FreeSWITCH there. But before we get to our interview, let's check in with Abby for the news.
Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us today on ClueCon Weekly. If you have any questions during this call, please comment in the YouTube, Hip Chat, or IRC channels, and we will try to answer them during this call. AstraCon is coming up fast in about 3 weeks. You can catch the FreeSWITCH team there at booth 101. And if you'd like to see our very own Evan McGee speak, you can catch him at 10 a.m. both that Tuesday and on that Thursday. And Anthony Minasali will be speaking that Wednesday at 11:15, so don't miss it. We have a lot of new content coming up on our YouTube channel, including our 2 newest FreeSWITCH with Fred videos and all of our past ClueCon videos, as well as all of our ClueCon Weekly videos. So make sure to give us a subscribe. Also, make sure to check out our FreeSWITCH website every Thursday to stay up to date with our FreeSWITCH blog. And big news, everybody. Next week, we're going to be starting a brand new segment right here on ClueCon Weekly called The Blog Spot, where we discuss some of the topics that we've been talking about on our FreeSWITCH blog. So make sure you tune in for that live next Wednesday. And as always, be sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you're watching this video right now, give us a share. All right, thank you for joining us.
But let's go ahead and check in with Michael Mavrudis. Good afternoon, Mike. How are you today?
Good. It's a wonderful day today.
Excellent.
For today's Community Corner, we are going to be asking Mike Jarris a question in regards to Verto. And the question came from the mailing list. Kudon asks, I am learning FreeSWITCH WebRTC and have set up an environment with a demo configuration. User 1008 is logged in through the browser with Verto. User 1000 is logged in with Xlite SitPhone. Sophia status profile internal reg only shows user 1000. Sophia makes a call to Verto, and Verto answers the call, and the call is established between the browser and Xlite. However, the following is in the log. Notice, Switch IVR originate cannot create outgoing channel of type error cause user not registered. And then we also see debug. Mod RTC channel state new initiating. I'm wondering how mod Verto is invoked to handle the incoming call. Can someone please explain?
Absolutely.
So Mike, can you explain that?
I can, absolutely. So what's going on here in our default configs, the dial plan uses something called the user endpoint, and the user endpoint goes into the user directory to get a dial string to reach that user. And While each individual user could have manually set up how to reach them, with hard-coded paths and all of that, to make it easy and work out of the box, we have one global dial string, and in the default configs, it's line 24 of directory/default.xml. And what that dial string does is it takes the output of two different API commands, the Sophia contact command and the Verto contact command, and strings them together into a dial string that's comma separated. Now, if you manually ran Sophia contact on 1000 at domain and 1008 at domain, the 1000 would return a dial string that pointed to that registered user, and the 1008 returns error/user_not_registered. And for the Verto contact, the opposite would be true. The one that was registered on SIP would return error user not registered, and the one that's registered on Verto will return a dial string that will actually get to that individual user. So what you end up when you kind of toss this entire string together for the dial string for that user is error/user not registered, comma, Verto / in a UUID to get to that Verto user. That's done mostly just as a way to string them together into a dial string that will hit the one and keep going. If that user was never going to have SIP and was only ever going to be Verto, you could put a specific dial string in that user for the user entry to get rid of it having to do the Sophia contact at all. But this way generally will work with all endpoints registered both to SIP and Verto at the same time. So it gives you that kind of magic experience like you're experiencing where it just works. So what that log line is about the error user not registered is there's a kind of fake endpoint called the error endpoint that will immediately return the error, in this case, user not registered. And again, we just do that just to make this kind of the strings for a dial string work to go together. If we were going to return blank, there would be an extra comma in the dial string and it wouldn't parse properly. So that's just a way to kind of have it parse properly and always work. It is accurate because you're trying to call that user on both Sophia and Verto at the same time, and the user's not registered, so it's not calling the Sophia one. So essentially, a fork dial to SIP and Verto, and the SIP's not registered, so you get that, and it also calls Verto at the same time.
So the dial string is the glue that helps bridge the endpoints together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Answers from the experts. And today we have Fred. So, Fred, how are you doing today?
Hi, Michael. I'm fine. How are you?
Good. Good. And so what are we going to be talking about today?
Well, today I'm going to be giving an insight regarding the debugging and logging in FreeSWITCH. How basically someone
Very important.
can... Exactly, yeah. How you can troubleshoot minor issues and then get to resolve your problem. I will also be showcasing how you can share your backtraces with the FreeSWITCH dev experts, just in case you fail to solve the issue. Those are the things I'll be sharing today.
Okay. So let's get started.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Muteesa, and this is my second year working with FreeSWITCH, and I've loved the experience. I've loved the exposure, and today I'll be showcasing debugging and logging in FreeSWITCH. Well, when you hear debugging and logging, it means FreeSWITCH can actually tell us what is going on. It can actually communicate why it is failing, and it can communicate why you're getting issues. And we want to know how to understand the language that it communicates to us when it is facing problems. We want to know where it keeps that information, and we want to be able to figure out problems with ease and in the very shortest time possible. Before I dive into anything deep, I want to basically show you and explain the basic setup of FreeSWITCH. You have to know your IP of your FreeSWITCH system, and then you have to understand whether it is on a public IP or it's a private IP. You need to know what your ports are for the public context and the ports for the default context or the internal SIP profiles. And you need to know whether your phones are on public IPs or in a private network. These are things you need to understand about your system before you even dive into the skills to troubleshoot your FreeSWITCH installation. You need to understand your network. You need to understand the structure or the structure diagram of your setup, because that is a basic element of troubleshooting issues in a VoIP network. You need to understand the ports, the IPs, all those elements, where you're breaking to the internet and all that stuff. Now, before I even dive into
So how do things like stun and turn play into this?
well, if you're talking about stun, then you're looking at solving NAT problems, which I'm going to explain in the coming slide. But before going there, I want to explain the common problems that we face when we are dealing with FreeSWITCH, or for that matter, any VoIP software. We face issues with firewalls. So before you make noise or before you shout out and say my FreeSWITCH installation is bugged or there are issues, you need to understand that you need to make sure you don't have an external firewall that probably is blocking your calls or blocking your traffic or blocking registrations for that matter. Firewalls can be a big source of problems. And for that matter, if it's an external hardware firewall, you really need to, your firewall administrator has to have knowledge of which ports are supposed to be open to your FreeSWITCH box. And then we can also have codec mismatches or codec compatibility issues. You need to know if your FreeSWITCH supports a particular codec before you enable it, or the endpoint support a particular codec. And then I've also seen issues with file permissions. You need to know if your FreeSWITCH service has permissions to write to directories, and that those are skills of a Linux administrator or operating system administrator. You might need to check out file permissions. You can also look at the CPU, because there are minimum recommendations for FreeSWITCH installation. And if your install is below the requirements, for example, if you install FreeSWITCH on a server that has low RAM and low CPU and low disk space, you're going to have issues definitely. So those are things you need to put into consideration if your FreeSWITCH installation starts acting up. And then we come to the mighty NAT issue. NAT I can explain NAT as network address translation, whereby we have limited public IPs and all endpoints. In order for them to communicate to the internet, they have to have public IPs. So NAT came in as a solution to solve that problem, whereby we have ranges of private IPs that devices can take on. So you could be in a scenario where you have your FreeSWITCH installation seated on a private IP, and you are interconnected with your provider who is on a public IP. So for your FreeSWITCH box to talk outside, it has to be its private IP has to be NATed to a public IP, and then it communicates with the provider. But there comes an issue. Because our FreeSWITCH is on a private IP, that means the users or the endpoints that are registering to it will be in a private network. And when these users try to make calls outside to probably users who have registered from the public network, we can have one-way audio issues because when the internal users broadcast their private IPs, there is no way audio can come back to them since the internet does not understand private IPs. That's just the little knowledge I can give you about NAT. So NAT can really become a big problem. You might find that your box is behind NAT, or your box could be on a public IP and then the endpoints themselves are behind NAT. FreeSWITCH has a way of solving that issue and traversing it. That's where you can use things like Stan, where Stan can actually advertise or broadcast the IP of the server and help your audio move across networks. I'll show you in the next slides where we look for that. Then we can also face issues with the typing errors. FreeSWITCH has massive files that you can edit for different configurations, starting with the dial plan to the zip profiles to user configuration, directory, a lot of things like CDR logging. All these files you can go in, jump in and type changes, but during your time of typing changes, you could make typing errors or you could miss out something. And I'm also going to be showcasing how we can actually troubleshoot that in case FreeSWITCH complains. Since it's HTML or XML, for example, if you forget a closing tag and then you forget which file you even edited, FreeSWITCH will complain and give you a hint of where the problem is. Then we can also have duplicate configs. This one is so common with global variables. I'll show that right now, a sample of that. If I go into conf.vars.xml, I can actually see a global variable here that defines my default password. But if I want to comment this out, I can't just use the normal comment out tags of XML. I have to probably edit this to another letter, the X to another letter, in order for me to comment out that line. So if you comment it the wrong way and maybe duplicate it, you have another value, you might have FreeSWITCH read one value and then you're using a wrong password. So that is one of the things that could happen. So duplicate configs can also be another issue. All right. Another thing we need to consider is the call setup consideration. When you're setting up a call in FreeSWITCH, you're looking at two scenarios or two aspects of this call. There is the signaling which includes which IP, who is calling who, on what port, and all that details that regarding which server the call went through, which gateway. That is what you call signaling. But after you have signaling, then we need audio to move across between these two callers or users who are involved in one call. My diagram here shows telephone 1 and telephone 2 are in a call, but you can see signaling takes its own path, usually which is TCP, because there has to be a handshake. And then we have media, which could be audio or video or text, which also takes another path. And usually media runs on what we call UDP, and it uses RTP protocol. UDP is best delivery. So you could find that, yes, the call has been established, but there is no audio. Audio is one way. Those are things that we are going to troubleshoot today. And then I was explaining NAT, where the phone themselves could be behind NAT or the gateways themselves could be behind NAT. Now, if you have NAT scenarios, of course, there are configurations in FreeSWITCH you need to look at or you need to look for to know what exactly you've configured or what exactly is configured in FreeSWITCH. The best way to search for that is to grep, and we do a recursive grep in all the files, and we do the external IPs So that basically gives me the configuration files where I can see the configuration files where I have that parameter, and then I can also see what parameter has been set for the external SIP IP right here. It's autonat, and then I can go ahead and see it's under the external profile, the internal XML file, and then we also look at the general compiled file for FreeSWITCH. It has also read these parameters right here. It's under autonat. And then after that, you can also look for the RTP. What IP has been set for the RTP. And you can see that in this case, I've told FreeSWITCH what is the external RTP IP. I've configured this in Vato. And then there is also AutoNAT. I've really non-chained this. The reason is my server is on a public IP. The box I'm using right now is using a public IP. So let's go in there and see what other options we could have. For example, if I jump into this file and we jump to these options, there are different options here that we can have. We can have AutoNAT, we can have Auto, we can have a host name, we can have the IP address itself, and then the recommendation would be if you're behind NAT, it's better you define your public IP right here. I'm taking you through these basic configs so that when you have an issue, you first of all look around these configurations to make sure they're right. Then we start tracing where that problem could be. Then we have to make sure also all ports are forwarded. If the firewall is helping you do the forwarding, you need to make sure all incoming traffic gets forwarded to the right places. Then we also have the FreeSWITCH console where we can show modules. We can show different parts of our FreeSWITCH configurations. These are a few commands you can run. There is show modules, show applications, show API, show codec, show endpoints, show dial plan, show, like, you can show with that command fscli. You can either run it on the fscli and then you do show API and you see all things you can do, all the API commands that you have. Then we can also do show modules to know what modules we have installed. Show modules. And we have a 515 responses. So all these show commands can help you know what exactly your FreeSWITCH has. We can also check out codecs to see what codecs our installation supports. And right here we can see the codecs. We have the VP8, Speaks, Opus, GSM, G729. So those commands can actually help you to know what your FreeSWITCH supports. Now I'm going to jump into the logging. After acquiring that knowledge about your system and what configurations have been done, we need to know extra things like the logging in FreeSWITCH. The logging is in levels. We have level 0, which is console, and it throws out everything. And then we have alert, which is, so the lower the value, the more critical, with the exception of level 0. So from level 1 to level 10, we have level 1 as the most critical, then level 2, and then level 3. Of course, you can see it's alert, critical, error, warnings, notice. But you can also use these keywords in your dial plan to log or throw something to the console or in the log file if it is really critical for you. For example, if you want to know whoever is calling a particular extension, you could log that in the log files. So we are going to look at the different files that we can look at when we want to check out the logs. The first file, if you have a compiled version, would be user local FreeSWITCH log freeswitch.log. That's where we shall find all the errors, and I will show you that part. We can look at the file user local FreeSWITCH log freeswitch.log. And you can see a sample of logs. It actually shows you what happened. Whatever you see on the console can be kept in this file. And that means that if you enable too much log on your console, it can easily fill up your disk space because these logs are too many. And under production, it is just, the recommendation is you would just run probably from level 1 to 2 or 3 or even 4, because there are not many logs. By the time you have an alert that's really critical, you would avoid running debug levels from level 7 to 10 in production. Those 7 to 10 is very important when you're troubleshooting something in real time and you want to actually get all information of what is happening at a particular time. Now, when you see the line up here, I'm explaining, or I'm showing you the format of the log lines. We have the call UID as the first part. Which is enabled, and then we can have the timestamp. In this case, my file has the timestamp as the first part. Timestamp entails the date and then the time itself. And then we have the level, and it's telling us that it's debug level. That log is for debug level. And then we have the source file name or the function and the line number. Right here, we have the source file name that is throwing that, and then the line number, and then we have the data itself. What is it saying? In this case, this line is saying there is an extension 1025 that registered successfully, and it's reachable right here. So with that, knowing that format, you're able to read through the debug file and you know what exactly FreeSWITCH is trying to tell you. Now, we also have varlog syslog and varlog daemon.log. These files basically show system logs, and they can have important information that can show you why your FreeSWITCH server failed to start. In case you try to start your FreeSWITCH service and it's failing, you can actually check those files, syslog and daemon.log, to know why your FreeSWITCH is not starting. I'm going to now showcase the typing error that I showed you, and I want to show you the importance of this file. Maybe an explanation I can give is, when you reload FreeSWITCH, it captures or combines all the configurations we've made in different files and different subdirectories, and then puts all that information into one file, and then saves that information in memory. So that means if you mistype something in any file, whether external.xml under external profiles or a dial plan, and FreeSWITCH throws an error, FreeSWITCH will tell you that in my file I'm trying to compile freeswitch.xml.fs.xml, I have an error on a particular line. I think this is worth showcasing. Let me just go under C profiles internal.xml, and then, and then I want to make a small change. Let's make a change around here. Assuming you wanted to change the debug level and you made a mistake and removed that closing tag. So that tag is there. Let's assume you removed it by mistake and you don't know anything about it. You go back to the FSCLI and try to reload XML. FreeSWITCH is going to actually tell you there is an error near this line. and it's missing this closing tag. So it's actually telling you straightforward information, but the question is, which line is this? It's not telling us the file where we edited, but it's telling us the line of the freeswitch.xml.fs.xml file. So let's go in that file. Our line is 3898. I'll jump out of FSLI, and then we go under user local freeswitch log freeswitch.xml, and then I go to that line. So it's saying near this line. So around this line, if you follow the next 1 to 5 to 10 lines, you should actually see your error. And when I go to this line, actually see an error here, right here. This is the line that is missing our closing tag. Of course, when you look at these configurations, you definitely know that these configurations are under the C profile. So, and for example, I'll just get that line and okay, 3898. When I see this line, I could, maybe assuming I don't know actually which file I edited, I could just copy this file, this line that I need to know where it is. So I'll jump out of the file, and then I can use grep, and if you find quotes in your expression, you have to skip them with a backslash, and then this one, and then this one right here. So with that, I know which file contains my expression. And luckily enough, our first line has the line we want to edit. So under conf cprofiles internal.xml, we are able to see our line that is missing this tag. So let's jump in there and we search. And I've jumped to that line, and we can actually put back our closing tag. Jumping back to the FSCLI, can reload XML, and it will reload successfully. That's so important for you to know in case you do a typo. Of course, it's not very common, but when it happens, if you don't know what to do, you might end up either deleting all your configurations and then retyping everything. But there is also another option you can do. You can use Git to track your changes in configuration so that you can actually roll back. I'll jump back to the presentation here. Then there are other files we can look at to know how FreeSWITCH handles our logs. Let's first of all look at autoconfigs console.conf. We see what is in there. Let's use user local FreeSWITCH autoconfigs autoconfigs console.xml.conf. And under console, you're able to see what FreeSWITCH throws at your console by default. We have all enabled by default, where we have console, debug, info, notice, warning, error, critical, alert. So we are basically showing each and everything on the console, and we are saying we are enabling caroling. So the carol coding is enabled, whereby The alerts, critical errors will be in red, warning will basically be in purple, and the notice will be light blue. And then we have information in green, and all the yellow text you'll be seeing at the console will be debug. Jump out of that file. Then we also have logfile.conf. We want to see what information is in that file. If we have logfile.conf, we can jump in there and see what it has. Well, in logfile.conf, we are telling FreeSWITCH to roll over the log file if it's 10 MB. Of course, this value here represents bytes. So if you divide by 1,000 and 1,000 and 1,000, we have 10 MB. And then we are saying that maximum rotate, or the number of files that we need for a rotation to rewrite in the first file, I've set mine to 32, but you could set to 3 or 2, any number you prefer. And then we are prefixing all logs by the session's UUID. UUID is a universal unique identifier. I'll show you how we see that value, for example, for particular calls. And then we are seeing what we are logging. We are logging each and everything. So in this file here, we can probably just leave error, critical, and alert. Once you leave these three, it will only log that in the file. If you leave all this and you have a lot of traffic going on in your system, you're going to end up having a lot of data in your log files, and they'll fill up your disk space. And that means you're writing a lot of information to the disk space. That means it's going to affect your CPU, and FreeSWITCH will be doing a lot of work. So you have to take care first time when you're hitting your server, you're putting your server in production, you have to take care of this and probably just leave this information. So we have that file. And the module that allows all this logging to occur is called mod_log file. And the way you test that it's installed, you can use module exist, mod_log file, log file. And this one here tells you it's true, it exists. Of course, it's there by default, but just in case you want to confirm that it exists, that's one way you would do it. Of course, we also have switch.conf, that file switch.conf, where we can see different mappings. Now, in switch.conf, it is actually showing, it's telling you console key bindings that we use in order to run some shortcuts at the FSCLI. For example, I could just type F6 to reload XML instead of typing it out, or instead of memorizing the zip trace on Sophia profile internal zip trace on, I could just press F10. Of course, these values can be modified, and then the commands themselves can be modified to what is more important to you. I'll just test F12 here or F2 to show status of FreeSWITCH. I'll just jump out, and then we have things like the maximum database handles, like maximum number of simultaneous DB handles open. If you can increase them if you're doing a lot of writes to the database, how many sessions you want your FreeSWITCH to have. This is a very important file because the values set in here determine how many sessions you can have, sessions per second. If you have a script that is pumping a lot of traffic and your values here are low, FreeSWITCH is going to hit a bottleneck, and then you're going to be in trouble. So I'm showing you these files that they are the basic things you have to check first before you complain or before you send an email to the FreeSWITCH list that your FreeSWITCH is not working. These are basic things you need to look at. Let's jump at the FSCLI, and I'll just press F2 on my laptop. And then you can see it just gave me status. F12 gives me the version of my FreeSWITCH, which is 1.9. So freeswitch.conf gives you those bindings, which are very important. Of course, here I'm showing you the few things we can look at when we are looking at those console files, and then the log file. Here, roll over 10 megs, keep 3 files in rotation, show you ID at beginning of every line, and then log all possible errors. Now, this parameter here on the top, which is rotate on hub, if you set it to true, that means if you run fsctl send seekup on the console, FreeSWITCH is going to close the current log file and then start a new one. The way that is done, you just go to the fscli and then you do fsctl send seekup. When you run that command, it is actually telling you it has rotated all the logs under cdr.csv. These are new files, and then it has also started a new log. And then this particular line, sorry, let me jump out. Let's go under log and see what actually happened. So it changes my freeswitch.log and names it to freeswitch.log.1 and then creates a new freeswitch.log file. You can actually see that my new freeswitch.log file has just the latest logs that I've just typed right here, or have just appeared on the console. So if I make another call, let me just tell this file, tail-f freeswitch.log. I'm going to make a test call right now to my box, and I'll just make a call to 1026. Once I do that, you should see logs appearing, being written to that new file. Okay, so those are the logs being written to the new file that we just rotated. Control C jumps us out. All right. What happens if you want? What happens if you want to know exactly what's happening with the call? For example, you have one-way audio, and you want to know if the SIP tracing is okay, if the log level it's fine. What's really wrong? You can turn up all debugging to the highest, and then you carry out a task like making a call, and then after that you can save that file, all that log to one file, and then you turn down the logging. I'm just going to showcase this here, and then we can turn up log and we see what kind of information FreeSWITCH will give us. All right, and go to the fscli, and then we turn up debugging. We can do console, log level, debug, and then we have Sophia, global, SIP trace, on, Sophia, trace level, alert, Sophia, log level, all, oops, Sophia, log level, all, 9, we have fsctl, log level, debug, and fsctl, debug, level 9. So at this point, I've turned up my debug to the maximum, and then I want to do this for a particular call. So the first thing to do is to send a SIG-HUB, just like the way I just shown you here. The reason I'm doing this is to rotate the log so that the new task I'm going to do is saved in a completely different file. So I've started a new file and I'm going to make my call again. Right here, I'll just call 1026. And I'll hang up. So our call has ended. And then I can send SIG-HUB again. So that means when I do SIG-HUB, it means my log has been sent to freeswitch.log.1, and then I have to turn down the console. I'll do console log level. Console, I'm turning it back down to console, that is 0. Then I do Sophia, global zip trace, off, Sophia, level, Sophia, trace level, console, Sophia, log level, all 0, and then fsctl log level, console, fsctl debug level 0. So I've turned down all the logging back to the console and level 0. Now let's go in and see what file was created. We have our FreeSWITCH. Oh, actually, I'd allowed 3 files. So let's freeswitch.log.1. So you see all this information about our call. This is what happened. You can see the zip tracing, the dial plan, what happened to the call, was it answered? So you have all this information about your call, and if you need help from someone to interpret this or from the community, you can actually share this information and they will let you know what is wrong with your configurations or why your call is not working. So that information is really important in your troubleshooting. If you have one-way audio or DEL plan issues and you're not very good at interpreting regex expressions, you can actually find all that information in here. All right, let's proceed. You can actually create your own. I have this DEL plan here that I will just showcase real quick. I can go under DEL plan. Sorry, it's under conf DEL plan, and I will go under default and create log test. Actually, it's already here. I'll just show you how you can create critical. This is how you can create a critical message, how you can create an alert message, how you can create a console. And once you have that file, we are going to test it using 546. So I'm going to just call from my extension 546. Let's see what happens. Okay, I have 546. 546. Once I dial that, oh, what's gone wrong? Okay, I'm going to use Lymphone right here. 546. Right, I'm just going to reboot my FreeSWITCH server. Oh yeah, thanks. Actually, remember, I'm not able to see the logs because I turned all off, and that had skipped my mind. I would run my free switch again. That's stuff that can actually happen, and you wonder what's going on. Remember, in our previous demo, I turned off all debugging level, so my free switch is starting and running back. So when you restart free switch, it has come back to level 7 because that's where it is by default. And I'll do my test call again. 546. And that's right here, right there, has given us some information, but I'm actually interested in our okay, let's see our log file. Log freeswitch.log. No, it wasn't logged. Let me just confirm our Dell plan here. Mail controlled. Actually 564. So when I call 564, that should give us the logs. Five, 6, 4. Okay, right here. Sorry, last time I was calling the wrong extension. I called 546 instead of 564. But that actually has thrown alert messages, critical and error, and warning on the console. It has also thrown the console message. And this should also be found under our log file. So this is really important to know when you're dealing with, when you want to throw some information in your system or in your log file. For example, I can actually just come here and say, I want to log critical. I want to find the error. So I can jump out of the console, go back to our log file, freeswitch.log, and then I can search for error, and it's can actually tell us where we are. And right here we have our messages, but you can actually search for different words that you put in your logs, so that FreeSWITCH can actually, you can search through your message. That is one way you can traverse the log file, by throwing there a unique word that you can actually search through to know a particular section that you look at, instead of looking at line by line. That's how we do Dell plan logging. This section of CDR logging, I'm going to kind of skip it, but here I'll just show you the modules that FreeSWITCH supports. FreeSWITCH can do JSON, CDR format, XML format, CSV, and MongoDB, but you can check out the videos I've created, FreeSWITCH with Fred videos that are covering CDR recording in detail. So you can check out FreeSWITCH with Fred videos. There are, I think, 2 or 3 videos that are covering CDR, and you'll be able to grasp very important knowledge of how you can do CDR. CDR is called detail recording, whereby you record information of what happened in the call. Was the call answered? How long people talked? Did the other party hang up? Was the call transferred? Things like that. FreeSWITCH is able to log all that information in a defined area. It can be CSV, it can be a Postgres database, or it can be XML format. And then you can pick that information and use it for accounting and billing, or even disciplining a few people in your office. Of course, I've showcased how you can narrow down logs by doing log rotation and then doing size, and then you can instead of building up so many logs during log rotation, you can actually have this command that does the hub, or this command that deletes. The last command is able to delete files that are 32 days old from the log file. So it goes under user local with the name, every file with the name freeswitch.log.something, and checks the timestamp when it was created. And if it's more than 32 days old, it will be deleted. You can modify that line to whatever works for you. And the last slide I'm going to be showcasing here is the backtracing. Assuming you've gone through all the things I've shown you and you still can't seem to know where the issue is, you can do backtracing. You create a backtrace file, and this backtrace file basically helps the core developers look deep into relate your issue to the source code of FreeSWITCH and know what exactly is happening to your system, and then they are able to advise on how to resolve that. But before we even go into the backtracing, we have to install the gitdb files, and you would basically run that command. You update and then you install gitdb. So we set the kernel core pattern by doing sysctl core. So we are saving our file in temp, and we want our file to have the naming format of core.anything, or the process ID. After setting that, we simulate a crash, or in your case, you might have a crash. So we simulate a crash here. We are going to crash our FreeSWITCH with this command, fsctl crash. So I've crashed my FreeSWITCH, and that should have created a core file in my temporary directory. I check, I should have a core file right here, and then I can use gitdb user local FreeSWITCH against the binary file of FreeSWITCH, and check the core 14639. That will run the FreeSWITCH binary and core file in gitdb, and now we are going to send the gitdb log out to a file. So we set the logging file, set logging file, backtrace.log. After setting that file, we want our file to be /temp backtrace.log. That's where this information will be set. So we set the logging on. on, and then we set the pagination off. The reason we set off pagination is to avoid having to hit enter for every page. And then we can have info threads. And then we do thread apply all BT. And then after that we quit. Of course, this information makes less sense for someone who's not a core developer of FreeSWITCH, but the developers of FreeSWITCH will actually know the information and run it against the source code and know where the crash happened and why. Let's see what is in our backtrace.log. It's under temp. This is basically how your file would look like. If you have your backtrace file and it's showing question marks anywhere, just know that you don't have debug symbols installed. So you have to make sure that you have debug symbols installed. You would share this file. Either you paste bin it or you share it in a text file and share it in the community or with the developers of FreeSWITCH, and they're able to give you professional help on what is happening to your system. Another tool I'll comment on is the TCP dump. TCP dump is a tool in Linux that can actually show you traffic that is coming to your box on a particular port. You can run this command here to show what traffic is coming to your Ethernet 0 on port 5060 or port 5080. You can also have traffic that is coming to your Ethernet port UDP and port 5060 or 5080 or a port range. Those are RTP media port ranges for FreeSWITCH. Or you can actually have a command that runs between your gateway and another gateway, or your FreeSWITCH box and another server. If maybe a provider is sending you traffic, you can analyze that traffic using a TCP dump tool. All right, here we go. Already shown you this, how you can. Now we can use SNGrep. That is, I think, the last tool I will show. SNGrep, you can install SNGrep that gives you SIP dialog visualizations. And here are the steps to install it. You can dump the repository in apt sources.list, and then you add the key, and then you install using the command apt-get install SNGrep. And once you have SNGrep installed, you can look at what is happening. I've already installed SNGrep. You can use SNGrep -h to get help and see how you can actually run it, but I'm going to run it in the simplest way possible, SNGrep -r, to show me the RTP. And once you have that, I can just make a simple call so that you see what is happening. Oh, remember, escape. I crashed my FreeSWITCH, so it's not running. When I do fscli -r, it is doing a recursive connect. It's trying to connect until FreeSWITCH is back running. So it tries to connect and tries and tries and tries. There we go. It has connected. Now I'm going to go back to my SNGrep, and then you can actually see it's already listening for RTP registration packets. And then if I make a call, let me make a call to 1026 and actually see the invites. I killed my lymphon. Registered. Let me call 1025 and I'll answer the call. We have a call established, and right here, let me just hang up. Okay, so we have RTP packets coming in, and SNGrep can actually give you more options. You see what is happening to your traffic, and then you can have a better insight of how to troubleshoot it. You press escape and then yes to quit. So you can actually, SNGrep can be used to view SIP packets from a pickup file, also applying filters with this command here, and then we can do live capturing, saving packets to a new file with that command below. And that will be the end of my presentation. If you need help understanding how to troubleshoot FreeSWITCH, the best source of help is our Confluence page, FreeSWITCH Confluence page, but there is also an option for virtual training where you can sign up, and then there is a FreeSWITCH expert that will be actually able to train you. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Fred. That was very informative. I'm sure a lot of people can use it, especially on the archive and everything. But one of the great things to mention, you mentioned the training. A lot of this stuff, if you take the FreeSWITCH training, Josh, who was speaking earlier, is one of the trainers. We do it every other Thursday. And then also, Confluence is wonderful, right? But if you're running a large organization, there's FreeSWITCH Solutions. And so FreeSWITCH Solutions is a great place to reach out and kind of get the expert needs you need.
Get support. They save you millions of hours.
What's that?
They save you millions of hours.
Yes, that is true. And millions of lines of code too, right?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming in today. And, we want to see some more presentations. You've got an upcoming one on faxing, right?
Yeah, faxing is actually already published. It's on YouTube. So I will be covering probably Vato next and WebRTC.
Cool. Awesome.
All right.
Back to you, Josh.
All right. Thank you very much, Fred, for that very informative logging and debugging session there. We definitely look forward to your next faxing session. It's always fun to watch you get in there and show us how things are done. And so stay tuned for next week, September 26th. We will have our guest, Carol Davids, who is the director of the Real-Time Communications Lab at the Illinois Institute of Technology. And so we look forward to hearing her latest ventures in the realms of academic technology. So stay tuned, and thank you for watching.
You've been watching ClueCon Weekly. Tune in every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Central. Keep up with the latest happenings by subscribing to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or visit us at freeswitch.com.